Hello everyone, we have to discuss about that. Replacement. Yes, forum answer writing 2023. Question number 1. Critically analyzes an India action plan on the antimicrobials and resistance. What are the strength and the weakness of the current approach? Introduction. Give a brief description of AMR and body. What are the strength and the weakness of an AF and AMRP, and conclusion way forward. India has taken other major step in addressing the issues of the antimicrobial resistance AMR. आवाज कम कर ले बाकी. Conclusion way forward. India has taken other major step in addressing the issue of the antimicrobials and assistance AMIR, and which is becoming and the increasing worldwide and concerned by the implementing and the national actions plan and or the antimicrobials and assistance NAP and AMR introduced in 2017, and according to the 2021 Lancet research, and there the included data from the 204 countries and 1.27 million deaths, and where the directly links and to the bacterial and AMR and the 4.95 million deaths, and where the anticipated and to be the related to the diseases highest in Sub-Africa and the South Asia, and strength of the current programs and data collections and the surveillance. The strategy places a strong emphasis on the gathering data and the conducting surveillances, and which the includes and keeping and the eye on how the antibiotics are used in the agriculture, human health and animals, and India can the emulates and best the practices from the Indonesia surveillances programs and awareness and education. The plan encourages healthcare workers and the general publics and the veterinary and the agricultural industries to become more knowledge and about the AMR. This is the essential for the promoting responsible behavior and lowering antibiotics abuse. Multi-sectoral approach. The multi-sectoral approach of the India's and NAP and AMR is one of its the outstanding features. The recognitions that the AMR is not just other problems for human health, and but also the result of antibiotic abuse in the veterinaries and the environmental settings involve multiple ministers, and including the health, animals husbandry, agriculture and environment. Weakness of the program. Challenges with the implementation through the NAP and AMR is the extensive. There are the several obstacles and to its the successful use, and because of administrative obstacles and the research limitations, and the plan success and dependent on the cooperations and dedications or multiple ministers, and which might be the difficult restrictions and access to the goods health. Weakness of the program. Challenges with the implementation through the NAP and AMR is extensive. There are the several obstacles to its successful use, and the because of the administration obstacles and resource limitations, the plan success and dependent on the cooperation and dedications of the multiple ministries, and which might be difficult, and the restriction access to the good health and thought out India and their existence and regional differences in the availability of the high qualities and healthcare. The issues of the AMR and can be the made and worse by inadequate and healthcare infrastructure, particularly in the rural areas, and where it is the might result in the improper use of the antibiotics and difficult in the changing behaviors, and it can be the difficult and to the insurance influences the public and healthcare practitioners and the antibiotic using the behavior. The approach places other strong emphasis on awareness and the education, but it can take time and effort and to change deeply and set habits and the attitude. Conclusion: the G20 countries ought to the works and together to develop the regionals and AMR programs and think about creating other global financial source, especially and for AMR and R&D, and to encourages and the innovation and guarantees the affordability of the new antibiotics, and efforts should be made to support the patient and reforms. AMR containment and measures should be strengthened by the governments. Programs like free the diagnostic and services and Kaya Kalp and which follow strict guidelines and must the participated in thus the initiative to raise the awareness and advocates for the policy changes. Men's marathon completion. X is the need for other comprehensive national security and prestige in India, and how should it enhance India response to both conventional and the non-conventional threat. An introduction, and which is the national security strategy and body, what is the need for the strategy and the how will it enhances India response to threat. The conclusion: be forward national security strategy guidelines the military as well as the critical defenses and securities reforms, the strategic implications, providing a holistic view of overall national security, the threats and the roadmap to the address them, and the National Security Council Secretary and NSCS is in the process of framings and such as the strategy and placings. The strategies and before the cabinet for financial approach need for the national security strategy in India. Nuclear armed and Nigers and Pakistan and China's are not are India's, and to the nuclear armed and adversaries and both take other hostiles stances and towards India and hostility, and from the either side could trigger either nuclear changes. Possessing other national security strategy will help lessen the threat and that the nuclear weapons and represented nuclear threat in India and lengthy porous border and with the several of its the Nigers and are used as the point of sell for the drugs and weapons and the pupils trafficking, both externally and the suspended state territories and the domestically. Radicalized and the individuals and pose other threat and to India. Developing a the comprehensive security strategy and will aid and in the resolving those issues and research. Resources allocation strategy and effective sources allocation is made possible by other national security plan, and while the enabling the government to allocate limited and fund for the military intelligence and other the security related projects and according to the priorities, and it makes sure and that the most urgent threat and are taken care of first. How does it enhances India response to threat? Non-conventional and threat and things like the cyber attack and chemicals welfare and climate changes and have the become more well known in recent years, and capabilities and the policies to counters and thus the risk can be developed under the direction of the comprehensively strategy, and it can the discuss the effect of climate changes on the national security and provides guidelines for handling the cyber attacks. Joint Threat Command, a national security strategy, can serve as other roadmap for the achieving armed forces and integrations and coordinations while preventing inter-service conflict to prevent the mismanagement of resources and close the gaps and the guarantees the coordinated response to threats. Such coordinated is essential developing deterrences. India can the develop and deterrences in the non-conventional and domain as well as conventional military once with the aid and of other national security plans and is a clear understanding of India security goal and capabilities and candidates possible enemies from taking aggregations actions. Conclusions. It is the right times for India to stand alongside some nations and like the UK, USA and Russia in framing a comprehensive national security strategy and that the caters to the threat of the 21st century faced by India, and this will require strong politicals, build the coordinations among the civilians and military bureaucracy and the military reforms and suggested by the Kargils and Reviews Community Report 2000 and the report of Naresh Chandra Task Force of the Security 2012 critically analyzes the impact of the social medias on the mental health of the adolescent and in the light of the recent lawsuits against Meta and discuss the ethical responsibilities of social medias and companies towards their the younger wear users base. Introduction. Give a brief description of the issue of mental health and body. What is its impact on the mental health and the ethical responsibilities of companies and towards its the user in conclusion way forward. Adolescent and mental health and social media's use is a the complicated and the multi-dimensional topic and that has generated a lot of the discussions and study in recent years. While social media has many advantages including making new friends and getting information, it also has serious drawbacks and that the might harms and young and users' mental health and recent legal actions against the Meta and previously and Facebook make it the clear and that the social media corporations and have the morals obligations and especially and to their the younger users ways impact of social media on the mental health. Cyberbullying and the teenagers and are the especially susceptible and to this the widespread problems on social media and mental health issues and the emotional pain can result from online and abuse and harassment, fear of missing out, FOMO. Teenagers who compared their the lives to the carefully and the manicured and online the depictions of others and on the social media sometimes and suffer from the FOMO and anxieties and envy and feeling of the inadequacy and may result from this low self and the esteem and the social comparisons and continued exposures and to the filtered and the idealistic and poor trials and of the other peoples and can have other detrimental effect on one sense of value and self-esteem which can result in depressive and the insecure and sentiments and privacy worries. Social media firm and the frequently and the acquisitions of the users and personal information without their the knowledge or consent and can give rise to the privacy worries as well as the emotion of the fears and worry. Ethical responsibilities of social media. User safety and privacy. Social media business and have and the ethical duty to safeguard guards and user privacy and safety and particularly those of minors to stop harmful contact and the cyberbullying and they should make the significant investment in contact control and safety measures and transparency. Social media's business should be open and honest about the how they the gather and the utilize and user data and users need to be informed and clearly about the privacy settings and data sharings and the proceedings especially the younger users and age limitation protecting and younger and users from the potentially and hazardous and the information and interactions can be the achieved by enforcing and age limitation and the confirmatics and the ages of user. Thus, limitations should be the carefully considered by the social media's firm. Support for mental health and social media's firm out to offer the tools and the assistance and to users who are the experiencing mental health problems. They can link people to the serve for the assistance and raise awareness of mental health issues. Conclusion. Conclusion. जवाली जब ऊपर वाली जब मुँह दे दे जवाली, ठीक है। डबल नहीं उड़े हूँ मैं, ठीक है ना, जवाली दे दे। हाँ जा नहीं चाहिए मुँह, ठीक है। हमारे जब छोटी पड़ते जी बाद में जी हट जाते हैं जी, ठीक है, इसलिए। हाँ इसलिए चाहिए अब। अरे तो वो पतली है ही भाई, इसलिए चाहिए मुँह, ठीक है ना। हाँ कोई ने नहीं उड़ी, ठीक है ना, तू दे दे, ठीक है। मुँह बड़ी चाहिए इसलिए, मुँह रजाई मराई जाई नहीं चाहिए, मुँह जाई चाहिए पतली, ठीक है। मैं उठा लाऊंगी फिर अभी आलू ऊपर से, फिर मत बोलिए, इसलिए दे दो चुपचाप। हाँ हाँ तो वैसे ही उड़ाऊंगा, बड़ी है इसलिए, ठीक है ना। रात के उगड़ जाते हैं, ठीक है। हाँ उगड़ जाते हैं रात के, इसलिए तू जब मुँह दे दे। पहले मेरे दिन नहीं, ठीक है, दादा लेके आए थे, इधर दे, ठीक है ना। अरे तो इधर दे दे यार, हट देना सर, ठीक है। बहुत छोटी है इसलिए, ठीक है। तो छोटी है तो मैं दिख नहीं रहेगा। हाँ तो तुम जाओ उड़ो, जब वाली उड़ो ना, बकार भी उड़ रही, बकार भी तब हमने उड़ लेगा तो सामर ने पार उठाया, मतलब जवाली जब आई थी उड़ा, क्यों तब तो चार उड़े, हमें उड़ा नहीं ना भाई, जाने उड़ाओ ना, जा तीन उड़ा ना, एक दो तीन पतली नहीं दिख रही, तो जो पतली है पापा यहाँ ले तो इसकी मोटी मोटी में है तो मेरे पास की बैंक रहेंगी, तीन तीन चार पतली उड़ रही मैं जाके, वो अपने आप से शर्म आना चाहिए, लोग ना कोई आने चाहिए, लोग आए छक्का का ही बिल्कुल भाई, बिल्कुल जला दिख रही है। तो तीसरी पतली है, ठीक है, तो उड़ जाता हम लोग। हाँ इतनी बड़ी उड़ी है, दो दो, ठीक है। हाँ तो बिल्कुल दो दो उड़ेंगी, फिर भी शर्म नहीं आ रही। हाँ तो आना चाहिए शर्म, ठीक है ना। रात में ये 30 कतरी है जिनसे उगारे पड़े रहे थे। हाँ बिल्कुल भाई। Analyzes the concept of the net neutrality in the context of the evolving digital landscapes in India, and how does it is the impact on consumer welfare and market competition. Introduction. Define and net neutrality. Body impact of the net neutrality on welfare and market competition. Conclusion. Way forward in the context of the nationals India changing digital ecosystem, and the ideas of the net neutrality is and the important one with and big the consequences and for the market competitiveness and the consumer welfare. The idea behind and net neutrality is that internet services and providers ISPC and needs to the handle all data on the network and inequalities, and without changing or treating user and contact the website and platform or the applications directly. Analysis of the net neutrality in India and its impact on the consumers and competitions. Access to information and services and net neutrality guarantees and users and the equals and union paid and path to the ability of online information and services, and this the implies and that the consumers in India are free to the access websites, app and online services and without the facing any abuse and the censorships and on the interventions from the internet services providers, and this the encourages choice and information freedoms, consumer welfare, and because net neutrality and forbids and ISPs and from the limiting on or the preventing and access to the particulars and materials or the surveys, and it is they want without being and the subjected to the beauty and the restriction and contact the restrictions and internet censorships and contact restriction have raised and the concern in India and ban ISPs and promoted on the prohibits and particular kinds of the contact and it help prevented discriminatory and behavior. This is made and possible by the net neutrality. It is the guarantee net guarantees that regulatory bodies and not private business and will continue then to have the authority to control the content quality of services to provide improve the quality of the services and such as the uninterrupted and video streaming net and the neutrality and enable the ISPs and to give the priorities and to the specific kinds of the internet traffic and achieving the balance between the enhancing the qualities of services and the avoiding prejudices and the against the specifics and categorize of the contact of the services and is the crucial innovations and the startup and by the creating and the even playing field for all the internet and enterprises and existing or emerging net neutrality and promotes the innovations via the enabling new players to the compete and with long standing and films and this strategy promotes and diversities and entrepreneurships in India digital and market competition net neutrality encourages a healthy level of the competition between the content and producer and online services providers. In the absence of net neutrality and ISPs can give particular services and the preferentials and treatment providing them and the unfair and advantage and the reducing competition. All services will only the pay compete and based on their the worth and the merit to the consumer's task. Thanks to net neutrality and conclusion, TRAI has done a commendable and job of the upholding norms of the net neutrality in India, which has the ensured and that the content over the internet remain and accessible and to all the without any discriminations and wide consultation and must take places between the stakeholders and like the telecos and OTTs platforms and government and civil society to recognize the importance of net neutrality and the fosters the conducive and the environment for innovations and competition and the consumer welfare in India, where the internet is going to be the carriers and of all the digital public infrastructure DPI critically examine the legals and the economically rational needs and behind the GST and demands on the online gaming industries in India and how does this the alliance and with the principle of ease of doing business. Introduction describe the GST briefly and body what is the legal and economically rationals behind and GST the demand in the online gaming industries. Conclusion way forward the goods and the services tax and GST is other unified and all the encompassing and the indirect tax and the imposed on the entire and supply chain covering the stages from the production or survey or services and provisions to the intimate and consumer GST services as other consolidations tax infrastructure that has the observed and multiple pro- previously and the existing and in the indirect taxes and including the exercise duty and service tax and value added tax patent entry tax and the luxury tax and among others the implications application of goods and services tax and GST to the online gaming sectors in India has sparked discussions and promptings and the inquiries and into its the legal and economical justification and is the conformity and with the ease of doing business principles legal and economic rational and behind this the demand and interpretations and of GST regulations. India GST regulation are the foundations for the legals and justification for the applying GST to the online gamblings and under the headings of online information and database access or retrievals and services online gaming and companies and provided services that are liable to GST and the entrepreneurships. is predicated and on the India ideas that the internet gaming services are the entertainments and product and are therefore subject to GST level playing and field the links it guest a GST and on the online gaming sectors and guarantees parities and with others the entire entertainment and industries and the larger digital services sector. It is the eliminated and unfair competitions and taxes and the arbitrage between the brick and the mortars and casinos and there's the virtuous and counterparts. Revenue generation taxing and the online gaming sectors is economically justified and due to the India large and the expanding market and providing the substantial government revenue for the public welfare and development. Consumer protection taxation serves to the regulates the industries and discouraging scrupulous and the operations and the promoting responsible gaming practices and thus the enhancing consumer protections. How does it aligns? How does its alliance and with the ease of the doing business principles challenges in the tax and structures and criticals argues and that the intricate and GST system can places other heavy burden on the business and especially small and the medium size enterprises and within the online gaming sectors meeting various GST rates and the registrations and sites and the reporting procedures and may pose difficulties potentially and contradicting the ease of doing business principle. Digital adaptations, the impositions of GST on online gaming platforms and might the necessities and the adjustment and to their the technological and financial system for the appliances in this the adaptation can present finance and logisticals and challenges particularly for the startup companies. Conclusion achieving sustainable and growth and regulatory compliance in the online gambling industries require other careful balances between the taxation and business facilitations. Discuss the principle of the dealism and the monism in the context of international law and its the enforceabilities in domestic laws and with reference to the Supreme Court and stance in the Nestle case. Introduction give brief the context and to the question and body describe principle of the dealism and the monism in the context of the international law and its the enforceability and considering recent and judgment conclusion way forward. The principle of dealism and monism are important in the context of international law and its the relationship and with the domestic laws and thus principle determine and how the international treaties and agreement are incorporated and the enforced within the country and legal system. The recent judgment of the Supreme Court in assessing officers and circles at international taxation New Delhi and West the MS and Nasle and SA Dalways and into the intricacies of the treaty and interpretations and within the context of double taxation avoidance and agreement and DTAAS and the case in revolves and around the interpretations of the most favored nations and MFN and clause in tax treaties and its the applicability in India's and without the need for the notification under the section 90 of the Income Tax Act. Principle of dualism and the monism and in the context of the international law dualism and monism international and domestic laws are the two different and the distinct legal system in other dualist legal system and they are not the inextricably and connected and even if they the cohabits and under such other system and the international treaty needs to be the specifically enacted and into the national laws or incorporated by the national government for it to be enforceable and within the domestic legal systems and until they are the enacted and into domestic law international treaties and have no the immediate legal effect at home. Monism and both the domestic and international law are the regarded as the component of other singles and cohesive legal system and the monist legal framework, and after they are the ratified international and treaties instantly and become other component of domestic laws on no further domestic legislations and is the required and under other monist system citizens can utilize international treaties in domestic illegals and process and the domestic courts and can the enforce them and directly without the need for the domestic legislations to convert them into domestic laws. Enforceabilities of such principles in the domestics and laws concerning the Nestle case. The uncertainty in the taxation and foreign investors in India and face challenges related and to the tax uncertainties not only due to the executives and the decisions and but also due to the judicial and interpretations, and this the uncertainty and complicates and the ease of doing business for the foreign entire most favored nation status. The case revolve around the MFP and the status in double taxation avoidance and agreement DTAS and between the India and the country unlike the Netherlands, France and the Switzerland. Thus the agreement required and data to the provide preferential tax treatment to other the countries and that are the members of the Organization for the Economically Cooperation and Development OECD. Interpretations of the international law, the court and the interpretation follow other dualist approach and the suggestings and that the international law is not the enforced cables domestically without transforming into the municipal laws and through the enabling legislations, and this mark other departures and from the monist and traditions and that the incorporation international law into the domestic legal system potential consequences. This judgment allowed the executives and to the potentially avoid international laws and obligations and by not the issuing relevant notification domestically, and this could not only the violate an international law but also the expose India to the international claims under the bilateral investment treaties. Conclusion: the court interpretations and provides and the executives and with the means to the negates and it's the international legal obligations by the not issuing and the necessary domestic notification, and this not only justified the branch of the international law and but also exposes and India's to the potential international claims and under other the international instruments and like the bilateral investment treaties. Critically analyzes the Law Commission of India and recommendation on the EFIR and discuss the potential impact of this recommendation on the criminal justice system in India. Introduction: despite the contact of EFIR and body highlighted concern regarding the recommendation of the Law Commissions and the impact of the recommendation. Conclusion: way forward. The Law Commission of India in report number 282 proposed that for the cognized and the offences where the identity of the accused is not known electronics and the first information report and EFIRS and should be the permitted in case and bears the accused is the identified and EFIR and registrations may be allowed and initially for the recognitions of offences carrying other maximum punishment of up to the 3 years under the Indian Penal Code IPC and other relevant laws. concern regarding the recommendations of the law commissions, efficiency verification process on human interactions and investigations and non-uniformly efficiency, the effectiveness and of the system and dependent on factors like the internet access, digital literacy, and the availability of the necessary and infrastructure, raising concern about the equitable access verification process, concern over the potential misuse and the security branches, and may also be the raised by the usage of OTP and verification and the demand to the submits legitimate ID proof and such as the Aadhaar, and thus the development and may give rise to the privacy issues, human interaction and investigations, and the EFIR systems, and as the outlines and may the postpone human interactions and in the reportings process potentially and delaying the immediate action and required in the certain cases and such as the kidnapping or the crimes, and where's timely and visit to the crimes and scenes and are the crucially non-uniformity and the report and does not the delve and into the models adopted by the state currently implementing EFIR. EFIA leaving a gap in the understandings, the practicals and challenges and success faced by the thus state. Impact of recommendation of EFIR. Streamline procedures and by the removing and the bureaucratics of obstacles and the improving user and the friendliness and the EFIR system 6 to the streamline the complaint and the submissions and procedures and better the verification by the requiring the upload of the legitimate and ID proof like the Aadhaar and the utilizing OTP and verification. The verifications and process can be the improved and the possibilities of the baseless or the fraudulent and complaint and can be the decreased. Effective documentation and the electrical and feeling the guarantees and effective and the complaint and the documentation and which is the minimize and paperwork and the facilitated and information management and organization for law enforcement organization enhances the accessibility and pupils living in rural areas and may find the online platforms and especially helpful scenes. It facilitated and the feeling of the complaints and without the requiring and them to the physically and visit other police stations. Preservation of complaint and contact electrics and feeling the presence and the contact of the complaint and preventing tampering or the alterations and which can be crucial for maintaining the integrity of the information and reduce and the registration cost, the EFIR system and made reduce cost and the associated with the traditional and paperwork and the manual registration process. काय की आवाज आ रही शिवानी ए शिवानी काय की आवाज आ रही है देखिए बाहर काय की आवाज आ रही खटखट एकदम and manual registration process and contributing to the resources efficiency. Conclusion, a well considered and well the implemented EFIR has the potential टैक्सी कहाँ गई अपनी टैक्सी? कौन है ये? कोई बात कर रहा है। Analyzes the strategic implication of other naval and blockade and in the Strait of the Malaccas and for India's and considering international law and the potential impact on rational geopolitics and introduction give brief context and to the question and body highlighted implication for the maritime and security international law and the resign geopolitics and conclusion way forward in nodal and block security and the regional and geopolitics implications and for the maritime security energy security a major. A major choke point for the world supply of the petrol and oil is the Strait of Malacca and any the blockage and would implicate and India access and to the energy and supplies and posting economically difficulties and possibilities resulting in energy shortage, trade and route and India economically prosperities is largely dependent on the maritime trade. A blockade and mites make it more difficult for the commodities and to move and which would affect the imported and exported and this can cause supply chain and disruptions and the negatively impact the Indian economic naval presence to safeguard its the interested and the guarantees the safety of its the marine commerce and routes. India would need to the encourage and it is the navals and presence in the areas and it could be the necessary to spend more on the difference and use the diplomacy to win over the regionals and alliances. Impact on international law and the UNCLOS under the United Nations conventions on the law of the sea and UNC laws and any the blockades and would give rise to the legitimately and the concern to make sure and that its the operations compliant with the international marine and law and the regulations and India will have to the carefully access and what it is doing and diplomatic and repercussions and enforcing other blockades and make uses and domestic and difficulties and with the other countries and especially those and whose economies are dependent on the unhindered and the passage of the stream of the strait to the prevent isolations and India would have to the overcomes thus diplomatic obstacles. India on regional geopolitics and the relationships and with the Southeast Asian industries and India the relationship with the Southeast Asia countries and that have the interested and in the Strait of Malacca and maybe the strait by the blockade to the manage intentions and in the regions and cooperation and collaborations with thus the nations and would be the essential China's reactions. Any Indian and activities in the Strait of Malacca and may be viewed as a challenges given the China's and growing the prominence in the areas and which and India would have to be ready for the diplomatics and the geopoliticals and the retaliations and as well as the possible response from the China's and its the alliance and global power dynamics and in the event of the such a the monuments and occasion and the world community comprising key global powers and would be closely and watching and the reacting to prevent the unfavorables and consequences. India would have to carefully mention it in its the reputations and internationally conclusion and Indian naval blockades of the Strait of Malacca and would be on the intricate and the multi-dimensional and strategic moves and that would need to take geopolitical, diplomatics and the legal considerations very seriously. A successful navigation of such a the strategic decisions and would required and striking a balance and between the national interest and international norms and regional stabilities. Analyze the challenges and opportunity presented by the production linkage and incentives PLIN schemes in the semiconductors manufacturing sectors in India. Discuss its potential impact on the employment and the electronics and manufacturing ecosystem in the country. Introduction. What is the PLI schemes? Body highlights the challenges, the opportunities presented by the schemes and its the impact on the electronics and industries. Conclusion way forward. The PLI scheme the announced in December 2021 and provides the different level of the fiscal support to various categories and to the encourages and the development of the semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystem in India. Challenges presented by the PLI and schemes, the dependencies on the worldwide supply network. Other semiconductor industries dependent on other complicated worldwide supply network. Any the interruptions in the supply chain and can affected how well the PLI and plan is implemented and regardless and of the whether it is the resulted of the unanticipated occurrence like the COVID-19 pandemic or geopolitical factors and lack of the skills. It is the essential to the cultivated and the retain other skilled staff in the semiconductor manufacturing industries. The need for the highly and the specialized and skills may the prove difficulties for India and to meet and which could result in other manpower crisis, global competitions established business and dominated the semiconductor market, which is the characterized and by the instance and the competition on other global scale in China, Taiwan and the South Korea are just other few of the nations and that the compete and the fiercely and with the India's and in the semiconductor manufacturing sector. Opportunities and presented by the PLI scheme, the attracting the investment to ensure the both foreign and domestic investment in semiconductor manufacturing. The PLI and plans the provides and financial incentive and this may result in in the construction of the semiconductors and the fabs or the fabrications the units in India, boosting the economic of the nation and in employment creations. There is other notable job and multipliers and effect in the semiconductor business and opportunity exist in R&D and designs and other the supporting services in the additions to the direct employment. In manufacturing and employment opportunities could be created by the PLI schemes and for everyone involved in the electronics manufacturing process. Reducing imports. India imports a the lot of the semiconductors and by the encouraging home and manufacturing the PLI programs. The six to the lessons and the reliance on the important by on the imports. This can improve the trade. This can improve the trade and the balance and increase India and self the reliance in the metals and the technology. Potential impact on the on employment and the electronics and manufacturing ecosystem. Employment creation thought out the